Hello everybody. I have a tournament battle against ReligiousJedi from Maryland, who is pretty well known for his very large trade thread. And finally in this match I get a lead Metagross matchup that actually does what I want it to in Stealth Rock, so I can encore. And then I didn't want any kind of ghost like Gengar or Rotom to switch in, so I decided to substitute instead of going straight for a dynamic punch. And it allows me to scout his team. Now I don't have Stone Edge, so really the best thing I can do to Mence is hit him with a dynamic punch and confuse him and hope that maybe I'll get lucky with some confusion. And I'm going to substitute, hoping that he hits himself so I can just, annoy him and force him out and scout more of his team. Instead, he shows me something else that has Intimidate, something else that resists Dynamic Punch. And so that's not very good. Now, I was going to stay in initially and try and wear him down with confusion and substitutes and dynamic punches, but I realized eventually he'll just set up, and eventually I will run out of dynamic punch PP, and I'm taunted, so I can't encore his Dragon Dance. So that's bad. I've got to get out of there. Fully expecting a Dragon Dance next turn, even though he hits himself, it doesn't work. I go into Magnezone because he's really bulky, and look, he just raked himself right there with a +1 confusion. That was pretty funny. I knew Salamence would be able to survive a +1 non-life orb waterfall, but I also thought he'd switch, so I subbed anyway, knowing that either way I'd be getting it unless I flinched or he critted, which, that would have sucked, but it didn't happen. So, regardless, his Gyarados dies, and I've been worried about that Salamence now. I've been worried about it the whole match, actually, because I didn't get to see what item it had. I know it doesn't have leftovers, but because he hit my Machamp and it had Substitute, I don't know if it's got Life Orb. It could be Yache Berry, could be Expert Belt, could be anything really right now. It could be something really weird. But I thought about this for a long time. I didn't want to risk him setting up, so I kept Magnezone in, but at the same time I was like, he might have a Scizor, he's got that Metagross, Magnezone would be really helpful, and instead he just kills it off. So I didn't know. I was just kind of, I don't know, I was really afraid of what it wanted to do. So, anyway, it dies, and I knew he wasn't going to stay in on Starmie's potential Ice Beam, so I decided to surf with this is a modest Scarf Starmie, so I knew it would hit pretty hard. And he shows me his Porygon too, and they always carry Thunder Wave, usually Thunderbolt. This one has Discharge, Ice Beam, and Recover. So I knew Claydol would be a safe switch, and this is a great chance for me to get my Stealth Rocks up, which is very helpful against his Salamence, because that thing will be switching in later in the match, and I want to get as much damage on it as I can. Now, I also knew that I'd be able to survive an Ice Beam pretty handily, because Claydol is very bulky, and most people don't invest in Porygon 2's special attack. They rely on his moves being 4 times effective against Gyarados or Salamence or stuff that it's meant to counter. So, I had a lot of choices. I could have Rapid Spin, I could Earth Power, I could Toxic. I decided I didn't want to Rapid Spin because his Metagross isn't dead, so he could just set it up again and that'd be worthless. So I ultimately decided to Toxic, totally forgetting about Natural Cure as he switches into Steel type. Now, I fully expected this to be a banded Scizor that was going to U-turn and just try to destroy Claydol before I could spin. So I went into Machamp to take it, even though he wouldn't really take it very well. But instead, he's got that agility. Now I was actually expecting him to baton pass that agility to something like Salamence. So I Dynamic Punch, and to my surprise, he stays in. He's actually setting up for himself. Life Orb, Agility, Scizor. That's pretty interesting. And from the looks of it, he's not bulky at all, because I can't even see a red marker on his health right now. That's how little he survived with. This turn, regardless of what happens, his Scizor is going to kill itself from either Life Orb or its own Confusion. Thankfully, it's the Confusion, so I get to keep Machamp, and in a second, that's very useful, because he's still got that Metagross. And I realize here, without Salamence, I really don't have anything to take that Metagross effectively. So I switch into Starmie, expecting a mash. Stealth Rock Metagross will usually either have Earthquake or Meteor Mash. Unfortunately, I guessed wrong and picked the wrong thing to take it, but Starmie can still survive an Earthquake, just not very well. And now I know he's going to do it again, because Bullet Punch won't kill Starmie from that range, and he knows that. So instead I go to Claydol for the resistance, and now this whole time I've been trying to lure that Metagross into an explosion, because that's going to be the easiest way to kill it. Machamp is the least useful thing to me at this point after seeing the rest of his team, so I just let it die, and it actually does its job right here by taking that explosion from Metagross. That was really the best thing. That was the best way that I was going to get rid of that Metagross. It was the best thing for me to use Machamp for at that point. So now I'm not going to let Salamence come in. I'm going to go to my fastest guy, which is Scarf Starmie, to try to hit anything that comes in as hard as I can. And instead he brings in Porygon 2, obviously. And I I knew that the switch to Claydol was obvious, and he knew that was obvious, so we decided to Ice Beam because that still probably would have killed Starmie at that range. So it didn't really matter because I wanted Claydol in. I've still got a Togekiss left, and I think that thing's going to be really helpful. I haven't seen his last guy, but I know it'll help Salamence with my Thunder Wave and Encore and stuff. So at the cost of Claydol's own life, I decided to finally get rid of those rocks because now his Metagross is gone. And now I realize that this Porygon 2 is actually problematic. My best chance to get rid of it, I need to get rid of it, unscathed. Because I need my Starmie and Togekiss to take on his last two guys, I think. My best chance to get out of this unscathed is to go to Toxicroak, pray that he doesn't see my sub coming and attack, and hope he Thunder Waves and lets me get it off. And thankfully he does. That didn't look like much, but that was probably the most crucial point of the match right there, because I needed to get rid of this thing without it hurting my last two guys. And because he fell for that sub thing right there, I'm just going to bash him with a Focus Punch. And stabbed, fighting, 150 base power, Toxicroak, max attack, Focus Punch. I don't care how much defense Porygon 2 has, he's not surviving that. So now he's going to show me his very last guy, and I see its name, and I'm like, oh, please be Infernape, and it's Infernape. I'm like, yes. So I'm going to sacrifice Toxicroak, not going to risk letting Infernape set up whether Nasty Plot or Swords Dance or whatever he wants to do. And now I know that barring any kind of ridiculous critical hits or misses, I've got the match, because my last guy is Togekiss. There's no more rocks to wear him down. He's going to be able to take whatever that Infernape's got, even though Stone Edge, I'm not afraid of it anymore because rocks are gone, so I can survive that handily. Air Slash is definitely going to kill that thing in one shot. And then I've got Scarf Starmie, which is going to take care of Salamence. That he actually told me after the match that Salamence was scarfed. So the whole time I was afraid of that Salamence setting up, and that's the way I played. And the whole time it was just scarfed. So regardless, right here you can't see, but I wanted to try to Encore on the off chance that his Salamence did want to try to set up Dragon Dance. So obviously it doesn't because it's scarfed, but that's what I try to do. Instead, obviously, he's just going to go on an outrage. And he actually thought he had the match, so he didn't expect Starmie to be scarfed, but I knew he was. So I'm going to come in with my 41 HP and finish that thing off for the match, because even a max attack or max speed Salamence isn't going to outpace a modest Starmie with 252 speed. So that's the end of the game. Good game, Jedi. That was real fun. It was a great way to end the first round of the tournament by 41 hit points. And guys, I'm going to be in Wilechase's 4K tourney. So I've got a pretty good match in the first round. So look forward to that one, and I'm out.